All right, well, welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt, and with me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. And Eric, we were just talking about this. It was a crazy holiday week. A lot of stuff happened for the Giants. We're coming into it a little bit later, but we come in with fresh perspective. I guess we could look at it. First off, how was your holiday, and how did everything go over this long, crazy week?
Well, holiday was fine. I always eat too much at Thanksgiving, but it comes with the territory. Eat and drink. Everyone's gonna think I'm a drunk. I don't normally drink a lot, but around the holidays I do. So, anyways, it was great, and we've got a lot to talk about because we got another firing, and we blew another fourth quarter lead, and
Indeed. This
and
team,
losses keep mounting.
You know what's really funny? When you look at it, right? Again, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I'm not playing that game. But what I am saying is, like, the Giants had the Bears down. Bears just beat Philadelphia. The Giants had the Lions down, right? The Lions were a team that was up towards the top. By the way, Chicago, to look at them right now, they're another team to kind of somewhat look at as far as the situation that we're in. They bring in a coach after they already had their quarterback, by the way. They bring in a coach who comes in and takes over the team. They swept the NFC East. The Chicago Bears have beaten every team in the NFC East. That has helped pad their record this year. Of their 9 wins, 4 are against the NFC East.
Yeah, I just finished my game preview that I don't publish until the injury report finally comes out. And I put in there, I do not like to do the what might have been scenario usually, because I firmly believe you're usually what your record says you are. And I also believe that those things tend to even out. That being said, the Giants easily could have won 5 more games this year and be 7-5 right now. And I normally don't play that game, but the teams that they should have beaten are some of the better teams in the NFL. It's not like it would have been like against some, terrible team.
Right.
And I don't like playing that game, but there's a danger in that, though, because Mara and McDonald and the other Mara may say, we're not that far away. And then what makes me nervous, and they could be right, but what makes me nervous about all of that is we've played that game before with the Giants, and they've been horrifically wrong. The other thing, too, and I put this in the game preview, and you just mentioned it, we're going to play the Patriots. And here's a team last year, 4-13. And now they're 10-2. And you can say that can be us next year. But I'm still the pessimistic side of me is still saying that should have been us last year. We should have gotten rid of Dable, and we should have hired Vrabel, and we should be where they are. Now they got Drake May, which is a big part of that. But I'm just like, it's another indication that they don't make the right decisions. And that's what scares me. So you're absolutely correct. Look at the Bears, look at the Patriots, look at some of the other teams that can quickly turn it around if they make the right choices. I'm just a little gun shy, PTSD with them making the right decision. So that's where I'm right now.
Yeah. So a couple of things with that, and I can't believe I'm borderline backtracking slightly on something I said recently, which is I felt like Kafka had to win a number of games against the better teams. You can't win a few at the back end of the schedule and then say, oh, we got our guy, because some of those teams have checked out. Well, that actually may not be so true anymore. Dallas is definitely not a team that is checking out. Dallas is going in the other direction all of a sudden. And should Philadelphia continue? By the way, Philadelphia is very lucky to have beaten Detroit.
Don't write off the Eagles. Everyone writes off the Eagles and they go on these runs.
I'm not writing the Eagles off. What I'm saying is they have the lead still. They are falling back to the pack. Philadelphia has issues. That is obvious. Dallas is still kind of but they beat Detroit. They beat Kansas City. They are moving and they've got guys that they came on board. They are moving forward in such a way that if I'm Philadelphia, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that Dallas.
Oh, sure.
You had Dallas down. By the way, you had your foot on Dallas's throat, and you were up 21-0, and you blew that game. Now you lost to the Bears to follow that up, and Dallas follows up their beating you to turn around. They beat Kansas City. So this team, I would watch that team. They're rolling. So the Giants are going to have a tough game with Dallas. That game is not going to be, unless somehow Dallas suddenly loses a couple and they're just out of it in the last week of the season. That game's going to mean something to them.
Right.
Minnesota is still kind of playing to get around. Oh, look at you. Got your BBI cap. Is it a legit happy birthday to you? Like, did you buy the cap for your birthday? Is it this week? Because mine's falls on Thanksgiving every few years, which it did this year.
Oh,
so my birthday. Yeah, my birthday.
Happy birthday. I didn't know that.
Thank you. Just another year around the freaking sun. Boy, they start to add up. And some of my best memories are right around Thanksgiving because football is obviously big in my life, always has been, regardless of just the Giants in general. But the Giants have had some big games in and around Thanksgiving. The game against the Cardinals, I believe it was in '93, was November 28th. I was at that game. There's just so many just really cool memories around Thanksgiving and football and anyways and stuff. So happy birthday, by the way, if you got that hat. I gotta get some. I broke my BBI coffee mug. I gotta buy another one. I know. It's just totally. I was doing dishes.
Not because of shoddy craftsmanship.
No, it slipped out of my hand. I was doing dishes and it slipped out of my hand and I broke it. And so
it just snapped in my hand.
Yeah, I just picked it up. It was great until the fourth quarter, and then I don't know what happened.
And then you threw it at the television set.
So anyway, back to what we're talking about, right? So Kafka, though, there is something to be said that if they beat New England and they win 3 of the last 4 or even all 4. I could see where the Giants might change their mind about wanting to keep, because did you catch Jaxson Dart's conference after practice the other day?
I actually did not. I did not see that. Yeah.
So he leads off,
but I didn't watch it.
So he leads off basically thanking Brian Daboll and I believe said in so many words, Daboll is the reason he was here.
I know he just said that part. Yes.
That has to be ringing in the ears a bit of the Maras and whatever, that if this is somewhat successful, that you've got Mike Kafka, who is, part of that group that vetted Dart, that has been working with Dart. If this works out well for him, and you've already got Jameis, who seems to really pick up on what Kafka wants to do, and there's some excitement there, I could see them leaning into that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, I hate to keep teasing my game preview, but I mentioned that in this no way, shape, or form is an endorsement of Kafka and Tim Kelly, who's now the acting offensive coordinator. But you have to admire their ability to make the last 2 games interesting on offense with Jameis Winston at quarterback and an awful receiving core. So that doesn't mean I want them hired. I don't know what the right decision on that, but I've said all along that Kafka's in a really bad position here, because even if he's the right guy, he may not be. Again, remember, before people start jumping on the Kafka bandwagon, he's been here as long as Daboll's been here.
Correct.
And he's been part of all of this. Now, you can say he was neutered. We don't know, but again, let's not all jump on the bandwagon, because he is tied with this. But if, say, maybe he is the best candidate, unfortunately, this cake is already baked. Like same with Charlie Bullen. Charlie Bullen's got 5 games to prove himself here with the same personnel limitations that Shane Bowen had. And we'll get into that in a second. But so Kafka could be the right guy, but he just may be a victim of, if they lose, you're saying if they beat the Patriots, what if they lose what if they lose the rest of their games or lose most of the rest? Right,
exactly.
We're going to be coming out, and the fans are going to be like, clean house, get rid of all these guys. I don't have anything to do with it. So he's in a tough position. But that being said, I don't think you might have. I didn't think they would be very competitive against the Lions and the Packers, and they were. And again, if it wasn't for the defense collapsing in both games again, they might have won both those games. And right now, we'd be saying, bring back Kafka. I think if they'd been 2-0 right now under Kafka, I think it would be with the bulk of the Giants fan base would be saying, keep Kafka, get it, and get rid of Shane Bowen, which we did now, and bring back Kafka. But now we're 0-2. We're under him. We're 2-10 overall, and we're probably going to lose on Monday. And then it depends on what happens in those last 4 games. But some of these games now look tougher. You and I were thinking Dallas was a winnable game. now Dallas doesn't look like a winnable game right now. You may feel differently, but right now Dallas
I'll say at this point, I don't think there's any game that's not winnable for this team. It's been proven this year that they've been in every game they've wanted to be in. They're in. They blow it, but they're in the game.
The second Eagles game, right?
I mean, even that game, quite frankly, there was the one drop where the Giants could have, going into halftime, the game would have been closer. We lose Scatterbo in the middle of the game. Later in the game, it fell apart. Yeah. But yes, the first Dallas game, Denver for sure.
Denver, Jesus Christ.
New Orleans, you were up 14-3 early, and then you ultimately just turned the ball over a few times that made the score look differently than it really was. Now, here's the other thing, though. To be honest, if you are an honest organization and you look at things in totality, you've got to weigh the other teams as well, not their records, but where they are. Detroit is sliding. Detroit has been having problems. They lost to Green Bay after they beat the Giants, a game they should have lost. They should have lost to the Giants. They lose to Green Bay. They struggled in the game against Philadelphia, even when Philadelphia wasn't doing a whole lot. They continually go for it on fourth down at random times for whatever reason and don't get it. There's just been a lot of weird stuff, and now they're losing a number of games. The game with Kansas City that we were in, right? And you go, maybe if we just played Jackson instead of Russell Wilson, that might have been a different game. It might have been, but Kansas City's also not a dominant team this year.
Right.
We beat the Chargers, but they're not really a dominant team. Once you start taking a few things away, Justin Herbert's kind of struggled a little bit. They've got a good record. They've won games where the Giants end up losing those games, but they're roughly similar teams in many ways. So look at the totality. So the thing you said that I think is the most important is Mike Kafka has to win. He has to win at least some games, because if you just go in, if you lose out, but you feel comfortable, like, oh, we were so close. He is a guy who is no different than Brian Daboll, no different than Joe Shane. He is part of a 20 and at what would that be? 47? We'd be 20 and 47-1 at that point, or something to that effect. That's a massively losing record that you've been a part of. The only way that you can possibly keep him as head coach is he has to win some games that says this team really started to turn around when we put him in as the head coach.
Yeah. I don't know what to feel like this, because I feel like I don't know who's going to be the right guy to. So your guy Shula keeps getting mentioned.
Yes.
He keeps
out of nowhere. All of a sudden he's
Shula keeps getting mentioned. So is he the right guy? I don't know. But I've said before, I would kind of like to go defensive.
Yes,
coach.
I agree.
Part of that's because I want to know we've gone through a series of horrific defensive coordinators now for years, and I want to kind of fix that. And I know Cy and others have said you got to get an offensive guy, because if you don't, and you get a good offensive coordinator, he's on his way out of here, blah, blah, blah. I get that, but I kind of want to just get the defense fixed. But anyway, I don't know if he's the right guy. Maybe it's Kafka. Maybe it's McCarthy, even though I'm not a big McCarthy guy. I don't know what the right decision is, but I do know they got to get this right this time, or we're all going to jump off a cliff. I mean, if we go through another Joe Judge, Brian Daboll, Shermer, McAdoo selection here, we're all going to be like, I can't take it anymore. So
yeah, you can't. I don't know how the name got pushed out there as a true possibility.
Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith is got to be the most.
Oh,
it's not even vanilla. I mean, he's like the ice milk version. Like, I mean, you don't get ice cream. We just go straight to ice milk. This guy, he's an offensive guy, and his offenses suck. Like, he literally built a reputation around having Derrick Henry when he was with Tennessee. Goes to Atlanta, their offenses didn't set the world on fire, and now here he is, the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh, and you're where you are right now because you brought in Aaron Rodgers, who kind of played okay. You didn't even see a huge drop off when Mason Rudolph came in. You went and got yourself DK Metcalf. You've got I think a pretty solid tight end group. You've got a decent offensive line. Yeah. Your offense sucks. You live off your defense. I just don't know how this guy. I mean, he makes Pat Shurmur look like freaking interesting.
But the weird thing about the NFL is he could be the right choice. I don't think he would be. You don't think he would be. Nobody sane person would. He's as bland as his name, Smith. It's like. Sorry if there's anybody Smiths in the chat. I'm sorry, but
he's
it's
like in the coaches. He's like in the coaches relocation program.
Yeah,
I just give him name Smith here. The only thing that gives him
Bob
away
Smith,
is the only thing that gives him away is the '70s mustache. I just don't think you can go that route when a guy has been that bland at the thing you supposedly want, right? I don't understand. I'm going to say this, and I would say this to Cy if he was on here, and I'll talk to him offline and tell him the same thing. I don't agree with the whole thing about the coordinator. If you bring in a defensive coach and he brings in an offensive coordinator, and that offense takes off, yeah, he might get job offers elsewhere, but then go get another offensive coordinator. Your team should have built the system up at that point if you are winning, right? That's the only reason why someone's going to want the coordinator. You're winning. You've shown that you can do it. Then you've got other guys that can kind of come in. But if you just go, no, we got to get an offensive coach. Well, now that coach is kind of aligned with that side of the ball. Now you got to go and basically do the same thing on defense. I got to go get me a really good defense coordinator. Well, what happens if your defense is like freaking just, lights out and then he gets hired somewhere else? The concept's the same. I don't know why that matters.
We've spent an infinite amount of resources on the defense, free agency and the draft. So why wouldn't you put your best coaches there too? So what is it? We spent the second most on the defense in the NFL, and we have the 30th ranked defense. Great. So, let's, now that's not just coaching; it's personnel. They obviously made, and that's the indictment on Joe Shane, is these things keep coming up. With issues on personnel, his free agency decisions just keep looking worse as time passes right now. The situation at safety, the situation at inside linebacker, situation at defensive tackle. Even though Darius Alexander is playing better now, we still don't have a lot of depth there. And when Dexter's out of the game, as we saw, and Dexter was, by the way, we got to talk about that. Dexter is clearly hurt.
Correct.
So I'm wondering if that elbow has been an issue all year, which begs the question, did they bring him back too soon? And shouldn't they shut him down now? I don't know. They say apparently we'll find out today, but he hasn't practiced all week. But yesterday, Kafka said he's optimistic that he might be able to play. But should he be playing at this point? Well, I don't even know that.
Let me ask you a question. What are we ranked against the run right now? 30.
Dead last.
32nd.
Dead last.
So what do we lose if he doesn't play Monday night?
Right.
Like, you're already dead last in the rushing defense. What difference would it make?
Right.
And we've already been eliminated from the playoffs. His contract is huge. He's a big part of next year's cap number. So if you are going to keep him, right, if we're not planning to move him in the offseason, then you got to start weighing, should we be bothering to play him right now? Mm-hmm. And the other question to ask about that elbow is not necessarily you brought him back too soon, but what did you do in the offseason to address the issue that clearly doesn't seem like it actually got addressed? He was wearing that brace early on in the season. And worse than that, it doesn't seem to have gotten better.
Joe Shane kept telling people that he was very comfortable with the defensive line guys. He came out and said, he even said at one point, and I brought this up before, we didn't even feel like we needed to draft a guy at defensive tackle. Darius Alexander was just too good. So that's why we drafted him, not because we thought we needed to draft a defense. Imagine what the defensive line would be now without Darius Alexander. So not that Darius Alexander's been lights out, but we'd be even more depressed because we wouldn't have anybody in the pipeline that would be going, well, at least we got some young guy that might be a really good player there. That's the other thing. You were talking about Arthur Smith. For God's sake, don't go into this offseason with your game plan being re-signing Nunez Roches. He's a freak. His contract's finally up. You and I were talking about whether he should have been a cap casualty earlier. Now, to his credit, he's kind of been playing decent football, but he's not the answer. He's part of a 32nd ranked run defense right now. So
it's again, the Joe Shane comment that I think will come back to haunt him forever is past production is a good predictor for future success or something to that effect. Well, you signed guys whose production was average at best. Slayton,
Mm-hmm.
big contracts. You go get offensive linemen, older guys, and again, Van Roten's played well, but you go and pay these guys big money for average production. And then how could you feel comfortable with the defensive line when you had to go get Roy Robertson Harrison, to come in and play? So
Right.
that's one guy you brought in. You go get Golston, you go get a couple other guys. You know
There's
what I mean?
that Ledbetter, Jeremiah Ledbetter,
Yeah,
who didn't make it out of camp. Yeah.
you obviously didn't feel that great about it. It sounds more retroactive justification for why you didn't get certain guys, like why we didn't spend extra we didn't draft more guys. We didn't think we even needed to, but he just fell into our lap and it was too good to pass up. No, you needed D linemen, but the way you play it, I think partly they justified it as we play 2 defensive linemen. Generally, that's the strict, if strict terms of a defensive lineman, we use 2. So they didn't feel they needed a lot because they had other guys. But to me, you gambled and you lost there, because not only did that not work out, but then your linebackers all got hurt. So now you don't have guys who can really hold people up. And so you're counting on those linebackers to then be able to shed and make tackles on their own. And Okerike's clearly lost at least a step.
Oh, God, yeah.
And Musal's hurt. McFadden's out.
Size done with Okerike. You can tell by his game reviews.
Yes.
He's basically no range, and they gambled on that, and it backfired. McFadden being out, hurt, but people are over romanticizing McFadden. They forget that while he had gotten better with tackling's always been an issue with McFadden. They need to look, if they got Ohio State's linebackers are infinitely better than our linebackers right now. I mean, they're 2 inside guys. If we had them on our defense right now, we would be like in hog heaven. They're way better than. So, I mean, we need to completely redo the linebacker room. We need this. The thing that really is backfired on them is the safety thing. Letting Xavier McKinney go. Newman has not been what he was supposed to be. And again, that's kind of like, again, I'm not trying to defend the Giants here. It's a little bit like Evan Neal. Evan Neal was very highly regarded. So was Tyler Newman. Tyler Newman was widely considered one of the top, if not the top safeties coming out of that draft. We get him, and he can't tackle. He doesn't seem to tackle very well, and he can't make a play on the ball if his life depended on it, even though in college he was getting interceptions left and right.
Yeah, he was a ball magnet in college. I think sometimes you have to consider where they come from, right? Like if it's a safety out of Ohio State, safety out of LSU, Alabama, Texas, they're playing really big time teams. But if you come out of Minnesota and if you're getting interceptions against Northwestern, or you know what I mean? I'm not putting them down. What I'm saying is, like, if his big plays weren't against Ohio State or Michigan, if they're against some of the lesser teams, you got to take that into consideration to a degree, because he clearly, one of the things that just stands out is he lacks some athleticism. He cannot change direction quickly. If a guy puts a move on him, if he doesn't make that tackle instantly, he can't turn and catch him. It's over. So he's limited that way, and the Giants are trying to use him almost more like an in-the-box kind of safety guy. They bring him up and hope that he can play, because you don't want him covering deep. That guy's not covering anybody down the field.
Well, what's interesting, not to switch away from this, what's interesting about Kafka is if you believe he's making the coaching decisions. I don't know. There's been speculation by some that the coaching decisions, both current and in the past, have been influenced by what ownership and or Joe Shane wants to do. I don't know if that's true or not. We'll never know. Did Mike Kafka say, Tim Kelly, you're going to be my offensive coordinator? Did Mike Kafka say, Charlie Bullen, you're going to be my defensive coordinator? What is interesting is this. The Kelly one's not surprising because Kelly was actually an offensive coordinator before. What's surprising is Charlie Bullen has never been a defensive coordinator at any level. He's never called the defensive plays at any level. And there are 2 guys on the Giants staff right now who have been defensive coordinators before. And he chose to pass on Andre Patterson, who was a defensive coordinator with the Vikings, and Marquand Manuel, who was a defensive coordinator with the Falcons. Manuel coaches the defensive backs, Patterson the defensive line. And he passed on them, assuming Kafka's the one who made the decision, and said, I'm going to go with the young guy who hasn't done this before. And that's a risky thing. The safer thing would have been to promote Andre Patterson probably, and he didn't go that route. So I find that fascinating that he didn't play it safe if he's the one who made the choice. And that's where, again, so you were talking about Newman. We've talked about the defensive line. We've talked about the run defense. You can't change too much up because the players are still the players. But it's going to be interesting to see how much more aggressive they've been, and how will the players play any harder for him than they played for Shane Bowen, who I personally think they kind of quit on. That's my feeling. I don't know that, but just watching them, I don't think they respected or played very hard for Shane Bowen. Will they now play hard for Bowen? And can Bowen change enough things up in a few days that the defense looks better? Because they shouldn't be 30. This is not a personnel wise, we have personnel issues, but this is not should not be a 32nd ranked defense, in my opinion. There's no way that they should be anywhere near this bad, even with some of the losses they've had on the injury front. I just don't believe they should be this bad.
Well, you look at Houston, you look at Green Bay, teams that have outside guys that they count on. The inside guys are meant to really keep a steady pressure, play the run, keep steady pressure, but it's the outside guys that they're really generating their pass rush from. The edge, if you want to call them edges, outside linebackers, doesn't really matter to me. That's where they get their pressure from.
Now, that's interesting because you brought this up. I'm sorry, I'm tired to interrupt. Wait a minute, sorry. Charlie Bowen is older than Bowen. You talked about Bowen, how Bowen.
Bowen is the oldest looking 38-year-old that I've ever seen in my life. Like how do I say this? Bowen is to 38-year-old defensive coordinators what Daniel LaRusso was to senior karate guys. You know what I mean? Like, when you guys like 37 years old and he's pretending to be a senior in high school in karate, that's what Bowen on the sidelines. He looks older than me. I swear to God, I'm like, oh my God, was he like pushing 60? Like, what's going on? But when those teams, what they do is they get pressure from the outside, right? They scheme to get those. Look at Micah Parsons is getting through. Will Anderson gets through. Danielle Hunter's getting through. Rashawn Gary for the Packers is getting through. They're getting guys. They get those pressures coming. The Giants, all their pass rush ability is stacked on the outside, minus Dexter Lawrence, and even he is, limited mainly to bull rush. You are dealing with, you've got Brian Burns, you've got Kayvon Thibodeau, who came out as a pass rusher, and you've got Abdul Carter, who's supposed to be that guy. And yet, we don't seem to be able to scheme those guys where they're getting a lot of free rushes, where they can just come in and take over. It's odd, and I can't really put my finger on why there's such a big difference between those guys, who I think are just as good as the, in terms of individual players, as some of these guys on other teams, and yet they just can't seem to get through.
Yeah, it's weird. And the whole Abdul Carter thing has gotten weird. I actually get into the point where I feel sorry for the guy. If you go back and watch Darius Alexander's sacks, Carter's right there. It's like
oh yeah.
He's so close to having like 10 sacks this year. But again, you are what you are. Yep. But it's like he's leading the league in these pressures. But he's just, like you've talked about it, he's just not finishing right now. But that's why I get mad when I see people saying he's a bust or he is. It's like he's right there. And they're like, and they say, well, look at his stats. I'm like, are you watching the game? Like, even just go back and watch Darius Alexander's sacks. It's like, if it wasn't Darius, it was going to be Carter's sack. And it was just like, holy crap.
There is a fundamental problem with and maybe this is the way it is schemed. And if that's the case, then the Giants themselves do not self-evaluate well at all. Brian Baldinger brought up a piece, if you saw, where he showed the Giants lining up and their linebackers were back. I don't really care about that part. What I do care about is the defensive line and edge guys part of it. On pass rush downs, especially against when you have an immobile quarterback, you want to bring blitz pressure up the middle. If you're going to come from the outside, you still need somebody in the middle just to keep the line so he can't just step past it, right? Not run past it, just step past it.
Sure.
Well, look at the way the Giants line up. When they have those two defensive linemen plus the edge guys, they usually have a heavy set to one side, one less on the other side, but there's nobody over the center guard combo. And I'm like, you just let the quarterback just step forward every time, and you're counting on the outside rush, which the whole point of that is either to get the guy at the apex of the rush or funnel him forward, and the middle guy is right there. He can't go anywhere. But if you don't have anybody in the middle, he can just step forward, nice clean pocket. And when a guy like Goff, who's extremely immobile, by the way, he runs purely out of necessity. When he can just kind of step forward and make a quick throw, if he sees you lined up like that, there's nothing in the middle for him to worry about. He just throws it.
Right.
I just don't understand why they never changed that up throughout the season. It's been the same thing game after game after game. It's even worse when you do it with a mobile quarterback. Now you let those guys run free. You're very limited, athletically limited linebackers who are already 6 or 7, 8 yards from the line of scrimmage as it is. They're now caught in no man's lands against an athletic quarterback. There's this whole scheme it seems to be pieces, not a whole.
Well,
minus a hole.
It's like, again, and in the back end of the defense, the Lions have, they're in their red zone. They're at the 5 or wherever they were, and all our defensive backs are playing way off the ball on the goal line. So, so it's not just the front, it's the back end. And we've run into that in the past too, earlier in the season, where we really harped on it, where we're like, why are we playing so soft and so the rush didn't even have a chance to get there because as soon as the guy we were playing who was the quarterback we played earlier this year that wasn't very good, who had never won a game? Oh, it was the Saints guy.
Oh yeah, did.
What's his name?
Rattler. Rattler
had never won a game. Remember before the game too, he said the Giants don't do anything terribly complex on defense. Yeah. Spencer Rattler, who's never won a game, was talking trash about the Giants defense.
When you're 0-10 and you're like, well, they don't do a whole lot.
They don't do a whole lot. And then he goes out and he wins his first game, and they were thrown and they had a good heat on him. But the problem was they weren't pressing the people at the line of scrimmage, and he just threw to the open guy. So the whole thing.
Can you imagine when he got the starting job? He's like looking through the schedule, like, Giants. And he's like, I can't wait to play that defense.
I put that in the preview too. We're the New Jersey Generals now. We're the New Jersey Generals. Oh, not the Generals. The Washington Generals. Sorry, we're the Washington Generals of the Harlem Globetrotter opponent.
Oh, nice. I thought we were going to wheel out Walker and Carthon in the backfield.
No.
Back to Kafka real quick, to the game, since we were doing this well after the last game. I know everybody, it came up earlier in the chat. The concept of Kafka going for it on 4th down late in the game. And I said this before, I wrote it down, in BBI, bigblueinteractive.com, in one of the threads, but I'm going to say it here. I had no problem with the idea of going for it on 4th down, because you obviously make that decision prior to starting the last series of plays. So once you make the 1st down, which they did, I believe they were on the 4-yard line at that time. So now it's 1st and goal from the 4. On the sidelines, you have to have decided whatever we're going for it. This is what we're going to do. But then your plays have to be in line. They have to be in line with that concept. So when you have 2 options. In my humble opinion, you have 2 options. 1st and 4, if I'm going for it to score, I don't care about their timeouts. I do everything possible to score. So I'm running maybe my trick play on 1st down. I'm doing a little misdirection. Whatever I'm doing, my idea is to score. But if you don't do that and you just run a simple handoff, then what you've said is, I do want to score. We're going for it no matter what. But I want to run. If we don't get in, I want them to use their timeouts. Boom, I run it. 2nd down has to be a run. You don't want to lose yardage. You don't want to take a chance on a holding penalty. You just want to try to go forward, hopefully score, but you want that 2nd timeout to get used. They throw it and it's incomplete. To me, at that point, you're now committed to throwing the ball on 3rd down to try to score, because you've already said that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to score. But they ran it. Now, if you choose to run it, that's fine. But I didn't understand, why would you give it to Singletary on a weird sort of run wide? But it wasn't like you pulled and you were running power. It was more like run and pick a hole. and there was no hole, and you lost 3 yards. So when you lose yardage, now you kind of have to kick the field goal, not because I think the whole plan should have been that way. You've totally screwed it up. You're now you're further back. You can't go for it here. The whole advantage of going for it when you made up your mind once you were at the 4 was at the very least they have the ball at the 3, the 2, or the 1. You're way back out at the 6.
Right.
I'm like, and that means when you kick the field goal, if you kick the field goal and you miss it, it would be even further back. I get that, but you're likely not going to miss it. But when you go for it, you just gave them the ball and you took them off the goal line and you left them with a timeout. I hated that last sequence. The idea was right. The handling it was all wrong.
Yeah, I 100% agree with most of what you said, just the sequence of the play calling. Look, I'm old and I am a prisoner of my own past with football, and my instincts were we were running the football at that point on them. What was it first? It was first and goal from the 2.
We had first down at the 4, so it was first down at the 4.
But didn't we lose 4 yards on the Singletary run?
But that was later. So first down we ran and we gained 1 yard or 2 yards. So now it was second down from either the 3 or the 2.
What was it on first and goal? What was it? How
first
far
and goal from the 4? From the 4.
Was it from the 4? Okay.
Yes.
But we were running the ball. I would have run the ball. Tried to run the ball in, and the only place I do slightly disagree with you is I would have factored in the clock. I would have been like, I want to get that clock down. But if we hadn't been running the ball, then I agree with you, maybe throw on first down. But we had been starting to wear them down a little bit. I would have run the ball. I certainly would have after I lost the 4 yards, and I felt the way at the time. This is not revision. But this is the way, and I know people disagree with this, and I'll get into that. When they lost the 4 yards, I would have kicked the field goal. And there are lots of people who've said they would have gone down and scored the touchdown anyway. The only chance we had to win the game is we had to get the touchdown. You might be right, but and Shane Bowen was a loser defensive coordinator, but to me that's loser thinking. You make them go the length of the field and get the touchdown at that point. And if you lose the game, you lose the game at that point. I don't, in this day and age where people, I have to stop for a second. What in God's name is happening that everyone who kicks a 60-yard field goal against us hits it?
I know.
This is like 5 or 6 times now, going back like 3 years now. Every time they need it, and they nail it. You know what I mean? And this thing, did you see this?
I mean, it looked like it was. I'm like, oh, he's gonna miss it. I'm like,
he missed it, and then all of a sudden the ball goes. We're in a dome, and I had to bring in after I saw the clip. I knew what happened in the game, but I didn't know it was bad until I saw the clip. And I had to bring in my son who's home on holiday and my daughter who's home on holiday, and I said, "Will you look at this shit?" And they're like, "How did the ball do that?" I said, "I don't know." Anyway, but I would have made them drive. I would have made them drive the field, but I agree with you. I think the coaches called a really good game plan up until that series, and that contributed to the loss too. So I agree completely. I think they botched that series. I think Cy talked about it too. I think he did, and I just didn't like the play calling down there. I didn't like the run, the Singletary, the kind of run like you mentioned. But I would have, if Cam Scadaboo was healthy, we would have won that game. Because you give him 3 tries from where they would have gotten that ball into the end zone against that defense. The way that defense was playing, I think we win that game with Cam Scadaboo in the game. So,
yeah, I think there's a lot you could say. Again, so that series, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm not making a choice per se for one or the other, but I will in a second. I'm saying if you've decided you're going to do that, you've decided for one of 2 reasons. One,
no, I agree with you. If you have to decide that ahead of time, yeah,
you're right. But you've decided one of 2 things. I want to eat up the clock and their timeouts while trying to score, or I only care that I'm trying to score. I want this touchdown to take this over. Then you might as well just go attack. Don't worry about the clock. You want the touchdown.
Right.
Once you call the run, you have to call the run again. Because the idea is I made them use their timeout, make them use the next one now.
Right.
Now you're on the
That's
2.
What I would have done.
Even if you get stopped, but just don't call the stupid Singletary run that I don't even understand what it was trying to accomplish. It didn't even look like you were trying to run hard to the outside. It was like he was skating and looking, and there was just nothing there. you just run forward. You just call a quick dive in or a quick little off to the side. You bring your tight end in motion and just follow him into the line, or even have Jameis just duck and push forward.
Right.
You're trying to keep the ball deep in their end. At the worst case scenario, if you go for it on fourth, I want that ball on the freaking goal line if they take over. If not, we scored. That's really what it comes down to. But then you gave them, by throwing it, you gave them another, down of no use of timeout. Then you call the stupid run, and it's like, okay, now I thought, oh, they must have decided they're kicking the field goal, and then they didn't. I'm like, I had no problem going for it until you totally botched the play series. And then it was like, okay, you can't do that now. Right. Now you're way back at the 6.
Right.
Anyway, it is what it is. But I do think there's something about, that's the one thing that for me goes in a negative checkbox for Kafka. As a offensive guy, and he is, right? He was the offensive coordinator. Those things have to be clearly in your mind, right? What is the purpose of what I'm trying to do here? And it's either all one or it's all the other, but you don't do a mixture of the two, because that's sort of competing thought processes at the same time.
I don't know if I should do this because I know it's gonna get you all wound up, but somebody had a thought. It had similar thoughts on the play calling at the end of the game. Malik Nabers had thoughts on.
I saw that. What are your thoughts?
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
No, but putting it out there though, what are your thoughts?
Oh, look, I've said for years that I don't think athletes are very smart to be on social media, and I know I get pushed back on that with people saying get off. We'll get off on you. I just think I think more harm can come out of athletes being like Eli Manning. He's on social media now, but I don't think he posted at all when he was a player, right? Eli, not that Eli would ever say
I don't think it was as big of a deal during the bulk of the time. Like, once he got into the later 2000s, he
right. But I just would not, because because emotions get the best of us. And I tell my kids all the time, I say, whatever you post on social media is out there forever. So you got to be careful what you post. You better be careful what you put out there and stand by it. And I said, you could say something and it'll come back to haunt you. And the same thing with the athletes. I'm like, so look, he shouldn't have done it. I don't think what he said was wrong. I think Kafka probably handled it the right way when he was asked about it.
But he did say, it seems like we're intentionally trying to lose.
That's
not
it wasn't.
good.
I mean, he's not saying anything different than you and I just said. We criticize, but he's a member of the team. He's an employee, and he probably, look.
Right. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, I don't have a problem with you thinking it's idiotic. I don't like the fact that you, as a player on the team, basically hinted that you guys are like, you think the coach is trying to lose, and it comes off wrong. First off,
well, don't you think he was being sarcastic? I thought he was being sarcastic there.
Maybe, but you're right. You knew that was going to get me going. I don't like it for a couple reasons. One, you've kind of had a lot of shit to say, period. You had the concussion, and then you're at a concert, and whatever, it's your free time, do whatever you want, but you weren't able to play, but you're able to go to flashing lights and loud music and all this stuff. You can go to that. And the whole dog thing with Dayball, and there's been some stuff that you could tell that he wasn't getting along with Dayball. So I don't know who on the coaching staff that Nabers actually even likes. Like, is Kafka a guy he likes? I have no idea.
I know, we don't know.
I do think
not after the play calling on the goal.
Clearly not. So you wonder though, where's Nabers in his feeling about like Dart and Scadaboo and those, because those are going to be the core guys together. Is he still his own thing? Is he like a diva dude out to this? I don't mean it like that, but I mean, is he off kind of by himself? He's Nabers by himself, or because we don't know. He really didn't play with hardly at all.
I'm not worried about it until I have to be worried about it. I've got enough to worry about with the Giants, and I'm not going to worry about him being diva. Look, there's like 89 things I worry about the Giants. Nabers is not the top of the list right now, other than I hope his ACL gets fixed. That's
it's good that he is back at the facility. It is good to see that, because you've seen with other guys.
That's that's good. I mean, so that's a good indication that maybe he cares. So I don't know. I I can't worry about Nabers right now. That's why I didn't know if I should bring his name up with you.
No, it's
I
fine.
I know what would happen if I bring up Deontay Banks, but
Jesus Christ.
hey, he didn't play, so you can't get off.
I'll say this. I need to find that clip from the game over the summer that we did where you're giving me a lot of shit about my take on Deontay Banks. That dude has been the epitome of what has been wrong with this Giants defense.
You were 100% right about him. My only point
How's he
with
still
him
there?
was he was this season as the tiebreaker. So you were right, but my whole thing with you was saying, can we wait to see how he plays this year?
Yeah, fair enough. I'll give you that.
That's what my thing was, and you ended up being right. Whereas I was saying, let's wait and see. So right now, holy shit. I mean, this year couldn't have gone worse. I did not expect it to be this bad with you did, but I didn't expect it to be this bad.
To be honest, I mean, I didn't think it could get worse. Give him credit, good for you, dude. I actually gave a floor to how bad you could be, and you managed to prove that I did not go deep enough.
We shouldn't pick on him too much right now because he didn't even play last. You know what I did put in my game preview, because I always have to put something under special teams. What is this team's infatuation with having Eric Gray return kicks?
I'm glad that you brought that up because I wanted to ask you.
Let me just mention two things. I had to double check this. So 2 head coaches and 2 special teams coordinators now have had him return kicks, because Gabriel wasn't the special teams. He was, remember, he came in and so Eric Gray was returning kicks in 2023 when Gabriel wasn't here. And Dable was the head coach. But now we have 2 head coaches and 2. So do you think Joe Shane's telling these guys to have them return? I know that sounds like conspiracy theory, but he has 6 fumbles in his career, and he has shown. Am I wrong? Has he ever done anything on a kick return? Has he?
He averaged 20 some odd yards in. Was it 23?
He had 1 decent kick return, I think, 1 year.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean,
when I say decent, he got to like 30 yards.
Yeah, he got to like midfield or something.
Yeah.
Here's a better way of looking at this. This is not only how idiotic that piece of it is, but this is how bad it is for somebody else. The week before, we had a player who was playing quite a bit of regular offense and clearly ended up proving that he does not belong in our regular offense. But at different times during the year, when you have needed a returner, you have then had him kick return. Deontay Banks is injured, so he's not returning now. So you need a second returner. So the guy that you've used before, Jalen Hyatt, not only doesn't even get in an offense anymore, you made him active on game day, and he doesn't even return kicks. You bring the guy off IR who has not played a single down this year and go, you know what? Let's put him back there to be a kick returner because he has proven his worth. This is how bad 2 draft picks are, Gray and Hyatt.
Why is Gunnar Olszewski and Smith Amir Marset, who's still on the practice squad, why are they not the kick returners? Why is Jalen Hyatt, even like you said, you're not even playing him? So why is he? This is
at least have him return kicks. I mean, I know he's not great at it, but he does have speed, and at least he's been playing. And here's another factor, right? I don't even care how bad you are as a wide receiver. He's at least been playing, and he's been warming up before games. He's been in practice during the weeks. He's catching the ball, right? He's there. Eric Gray has done nothing until that week.
No,
he hasn't even practiced until that week. And you go, we're going to put you back returning kicks.
So my question to you is this: do you have a sneaky suspicion that maybe that's being made above the coaches?
I think, you know what? I do. I said this when we talked the last show. The maneuvering they do with the salary cap with some of the players, the bottom half of the roster, seems to be very specific. They bring guys up off the practice squad and they use up their 3 elevations, but then they don't want to like little Jordan Humphrey. They didn't want to sign him to the roster. So they started using Ray McLeod.
Right.
3 elevations. They don't sign him to the roster. They then snag Isaiah Hodgins and go, okay, we'll sign him and we'll put him on a roster. I think that they keep guys like Gray right? You're paying him anyway. I think they just go, you know what? We're already paying him. I'm not bringing another guy up and giving a game check to somebody I'm already paying. So we'll just move him in. I do
Well,
believe
why
that's what
play
they've been
him
doing.
then? But I don't, like you said, why is he playing?
Because apparently they feel Jalen Hyatt is so bad that they're just going to go ahead and do. This is how bad. This is the biggest negative on Joe Shane is these are some of the guys that you had and you still keep them. And it becomes this weird, rearranging the chairs on the Titanic as far as players go. It's odd that it's Neil, you kept him around and around and around to what? To
Put
just
on
not
IR.
to just not admit that he needs to be cut. And then you found it, and that was your saving grace. Oh, he's injured. We could just put him on IR.
He's
You
on
don't have to cut him.
IR with an injury. He didn't even suffer in a game. So
To a muscle group that most offensive linemen don't get injuries to.
unless you're chasing down a block punt. Yeah. So the whole thing.
So I do believe that there's been a lot of covering of mistakes made elsewhere. And I think the Giants aren't necessarily cheap per se. They give out big contracts, but how much cash they give out throughout the season, they are extremely cheap, and they play that game.
Yeah, I just don't. I didn't get. Again, it's not a major point, but look, if they lose the game on Monday night because Eric Gray fumbles like in a kickoff return, that would be just so telling about this organization. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? And I think the only one who brought it up this week was Ryan Dunleavy. I think he kind of like, what are you doing? You know, why is Eric Gray doing this again? And again, it's one of those things people will say that's not that big a deal, but it's like one of those things that we've talked about, they've done, and they don't seem to be learning from their mistakes, and that still seems to be happening. So, all right, so let's get focused again. So, big news is this. Brian Daboll's gone, fired, replaced by Kafka. Shane Bowen now fired, replaced by Charlie Bullen. You could argue that, and I will argue this, they should have been fired together. I know what the counter argument is, that they had to sort of evaluate what's going on and get a feel for who's going there, and that coach from Northwestern was there. I still think there's more to that Northwestern coach being there.
Yeah, I do as well.
But look, at the very least, and maybe it wouldn't have made a difference, but at the very least, Shane Bowen contributed to the last two losses that Kafka was the interim head coach for. So you could make the case that by not firing Bowen immediately, that contributed to Kafka even being in a more tenuous situation right now. If Kafka was 2-0, you'd have. I would think we'd get the bulk of Giants fans going, bring back Kafka at this point. Not all of them, but I think you'd get, if we'd beaten Green Bay and we'd beaten the Lions, I think a lot of people would say, Kafka's the guy that we need to go with right now. But right now, again, like Daboll got sabotaged by Bowen, Kafka was sabotaged by Bowen too.
It's a weird situation because like you said earlier, we kind of still don't know who's pulling the strings. Is Joe Shane deciding when these things are happening? And that very well may be. And I don't think Joe Shane should be safe at all with his job. I really do not. The draft piece, I've enjoyed the way he seems to know how it's going to go, but he continually makes either the wrong choices, or the team that you're putting together, you went and got these shiny parts that don't fit the actual overall product that you have. So that it doesn't work out. I don't know the whole coaching piece of it, but if I'm Kafka, I certainly want Bowen to be fired for the very reason that I coached a team in 2 games, missing a decent amount of their weapons. And by the way, one of the weapons that was missing from the previous game, Darius Slayton, comes back. He has one catch. And it was the first reception of the game. And then he didn't have a catch the rest of the game. How is that possible?
Jameis Winston looked like a better wide receiver than Darius.
Oh, my God. It's embarrassing to the point. What's worse is when you look at the cap numbers for next year and how much Slayton is going to count.
Oh yeah,
cap.
Yeah. If I'm a new head coach coming in here, I'm like, no, Slayton's not on my team. But maybe he has to be at this point too because of salary cap. I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get rid. So again, if I'm Kafka, I want to get rid of that guy because the defense. I mean, first off, Jesus Christ, how do you give up a touchdown run untouched in overtime? I mean, it's not like he was untouched from 25. He was untouched from 68 yards away.
15 carries, 219 yards. What was it? 15 yards a carry?
And I think he had like another 45 or 50
he had
receiving yards.
He had 2 49-yard runs, and then he had this 69-yarder in overtime. So, yeah.
And completely got shut down by Green Bay on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah. So I even Carl Banks, it's been told he can go off now. I don't know if you've seen Carl Banks.
Yeah, it's weird. See, I'm a big Carl Banks guy. The guy knows football.
Yeah.
But dude, come on. It becomes really obvious when you're like, well, there's this, and I think you need to understand. And now it's like, you got to go. You can't play. These are the same goddamn schemes you've been running all season. Like, why is it now so bad?
I know. So they've been told that the leash is off, at least in the short term, and they can say what they want to do. And again, I love Carl as a player, but it's so transparent. It's humorous at this point. So
real quick, because I do want to keep it tight.
Yeah.
And by the way, I did put something out earlier. Eric and I are still discussing. There are some potential drawbacks to maybe doing Monday night, so we haven't decided yet. We
do want to do a game.
We like it. We definitely are interested. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I just want to let everyone know we definitely will probably do a game before the end of the year. It's just what game we want to do.
So what do we want to see from Jaxson Dart? You're coming off concussion. You've been injured. You've been hurt a couple of different times. You've been checked for a concussion multiple times. What do we want to see from him in this game? Because, by the way, this is going to be the first time we see Jaxson Dart with Kafka running the team. So what are we going to see differently from him? What do you want to see from him?
It's a great question, and I kind of said in the preview, it could go a lot of different ways. First of all, he's going to probably be a little bit rusty because he's been off 2 weeks. He could be a little gun shy. I don't think he will, but he could. The negative could be, you and I have seen quarterbacks before who have gotten hurt, and they're not, and again, God forbid this happens to Jaxson. I don't think this is in Jackson's DNA, but we've seen guys who have gotten their bell rung and they aren't the same player because they're a little bit gun shy. Or does he listen to Tim Kelly, who was talking this week, and he said he's been talking to Jaxson and saying, you've got to be way smarter about this. We need you. You got to, so does he take that? Or is he back to crash course Jaxson Dart and he's just running around out there? This could go any number of ways. And then again, the backdrop to this, which kind of stinks, is his first game back, is this is kind of flying under the radar too. When the Giants played them, Green Bay, Detroit, and now New England's defenses were all top 10 defenses. Now Detroit's fallen back because of the last 2 games, but Green Bay's still up there, and I think New England's 5th scoring defense and 5th overall yard. This is a tough defense that they're going to be playing. So, but in with that, before we move past it, the feather in Kafka and Kelly's hat was is I know they lost that game, but those 2 trick plays were 2 of the coolest plays I've seen the Giants run in a long time. Now, the trick plays always are awesome when they work. I know that, but if the Giants had beaten the Lions, that Jameis Winston, the throw and catch to Jameis Winston, that would have been like a highlight of all highlights. That was an awesome play.
He
caught it and he broke the tackle and got it.
Not just that he caught it, he adjusts under the coverage. He comes, the linebacker's on him. He comes under it, he catches it. He then takes him, he fakes him, he takes him, brushes off the tackle. I mean, Jameis is not known as a big time running guy, and here he is running down the field. I mean, that was pretty impressive.
And Gunnar was immediately under pressure. Gunnar somehow just kept his poise. He
steps through. Yep.
He was like, all right, I'm going to go back the other way and throw back. I mean, the whole play was cool. It was awesome. So somebody posted it earlier in chat. I'd like to keep Gunnar. I don't think Gunnar.
I agree.
I don't think Gunner's this going to be this awesome player, but he's this jack of all trades kind of guy that you kind of keep around because he can do so many different things.
He's Phil McConkey with a little bit more athletic ability, I think.
Yeah, and he's I don't know. It just seems like when he does something, it works. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's the guy. You know what the thing is? You can count on him. He knows his job. He knows he's not, he's not this, unbelievable athlete who's just going to leave guys in the dust. He knows what he needs to do. He knows where he needs to go. And those guys are huge to a team, because you can have a lot of really good players that tend to make mental mistakes, and you can't count on those guys in the crunch moments. They rely on athletic ability versus knowledge and skill. And Gunnar he's just relying on his instincts and what he knows he's supposed to do.
So I know the way you think. When you see Jalen Hyatt and you see Deonte Banks on the field, you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Oh God, yeah, they're idiots.
When Gunnar comes out on the field, I don't worry about that. Again, I'm not saying Gunnar is a great player. I'm not even saying Gunnar should start. I'm just saying when Gunnar does come on the field, good things happen. Bad things don't seem to happen when Gunnar's on the field.
Yeah, I mean,
and I hope I just didn't jinx you, Gunnar.
Yeah, I know. Right now we're gonna get a fumble on the first return, and then be like, remember Eric said it.
Yeah.
The thing about Monday night, though, so I'll say this: the Giants, and I know someone posted in earlier too. The Giants' offense is still low end on the scoring in the NFL. First off, the Giants have scored on their first drive so many times this year that I think it exceeds all the first drive scores that they had over the last 5 or 6 years. It's crazy now to think that we get the ball and we seem to just right away, we have those scripted plays that we do, and it leads to a score, almost game in and game out. That being said, these defenses that we've played, they have not stopped the Giants when they really wanted to do something. The Giants' offensive line has played very well, very under the radar, by the way, of how much it's playing well together. They're not great individual pieces, but the Giants' suburbanite line wasn't great individually. They were great collectively. This team is offensive line group is playing pretty well. That's huge. They've been able to run the ball. So I think the one good thing about Dart when he comes back, teams have gotten used to the last couple of weeks of watching Jameis Winston. Jaxson Dart brings a whole different thing to that. You can't just try to rush through and get. If Dart breaks containment, he's going to run for first downs.
Right.
We don't want him to get hit, but he's going to run for first downs. Here's the other thing. New England's going to roll into this game with half of their left side of their offensive line injured and out.
Yeah, Will Campbell's out. Yeah.
And so is the guard. Their guard is injured as well. So now you're basically going against a team that has to replace 2/5 of their offensive line for this game.
Yeah. So, but they're on a roll. They've won 9 in a row.
Sure.
It's in New England. It's in Foxborough. It's Monday night. We don't tend to do well on primetime games. We'll see.
Giants are going to win this game. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Oh,
no, they are. Well, you know why? Because they're going to win because they're not supposed to. And it's a Monday night, and they're going to win this game.
If they follow their MO, they're going to have a fourth quarter lead. They're going to have a fourth quarter lead, and we're going to have to see if Charlie Bullen can come up with something different to stop the bleeding.
Sure.
But we'll see. If they have another fourth quarter lead, there's talent on this team. I still can't. Some people are. No one wanted Jameis Winston, so some people are kind of thinking like, and this whole thing has come up where the Giants aren't. They're in a weird position. There are parts of this team that are really bad, and there are parts of this team that are really good. And people will say there are no parts of this team that are really good. Well, that's not true, or the Giants wouldn't be toe-to-toe with all the teams that have been toe-to-toe with this. Again, they're not beating up on like the Titans or Miami. They're staying in. And John, you said earlier, I'm going to play you now. You said you were kind of minimalizing some of the teams that they've played. They said they're not as good as because they've come back to earth. I still think the teams that they've played, while they may have come back to earth a little bit, they're still some of the better teams in the NFL.
Oh, sure. No, I agree.
So, I mean, here's a question for you before we get up. Who's the best team in the NFL right now? It's hard, isn't it?
I'd say the Rams. I'd say the Rams are the best team.
Rams? Yeah, that's a good get.
Their defense is scarily
Who's your favorite to win a Super Bowl right now? Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
If the Rams get home field for the NFC, they're gonna go in. If they somehow come back and they have to go on the road to the East, that changes things a little bit. But I think the Rams in the NFC and the AFC right now, Denver's defense keeps them in so many games. But I
you trust
honestly,
the quarterback?
No, and the team that I would be scared that might start to get good enough to get in would be Houston with that defense, with the
Hmm.
way they rush the passer. I
Right.
would be afraid to play them. Buffalo is, by the way, Buffalo is racked with injuries this week. Their offensive line, Dawkins is out. I believe they have another offensive lineman out. They're in trouble. They got to play Pittsburgh.
Do the Chiefs make it the playoffs? Do you have the Chiefs making the playoffs?
Their schedule lines up in a way that they can, because they'll knock some. If they win some of their games, they'll knock some teams off. The team to watch out for right now that could slip, the Colts right now. Daniel Jones has a leg injury. It's been said that he has a fracture in his leg.
I didn't know that. Okay.
But that other people are saying, well, it's not really a fracture. You watch him in practice, that dude is limping like there's no tomorrow. If he takes a big hit, and we've seen him play injured before, and then he gets injured. I would be careful. If the Colts, if they lose Jones, they don't really have another quarterback option from there. They would be done. That team would be done. So
are you telling me Daniel Jones is a player you cannot lose now? Oh, how times have
for
changed.
them. I mean, because who's their backup quarterback? Anthony Richards on IR, and
I'm just laughing at the situation a year.
I know it's crazy.
Where we were a year ago.
It's crazy. So right now I'd have to say the Rams and the Broncos, especially if Denver gets home field, right? That really plays into their favor. Cincinnati might have gotten Joe Burrow back a little late, but damn, that team, you look at the points that they have scored, even with Burrow being out, they're one of the higher scoring teams. They've given up defensively 370 points. Their defense is a sieve, but they beat the Ravens. And now they have a chance. They're only 2 games back in their own division. They've got another game with the Ravens. I think the AFC is going to get shaken up a lot. The NFC kind of is a little bit set, but I think the Rams are the cream of the crop.
Well, one of the biggest self-owns I saw on Twitter and sports Twitter in recent memory was someone who tweeted out, a Eagles fan tweeted out during the game when the Eagles were 21-0 saying, where are you now? Where are you now, Cowboys? You said you big, and it got ratioed into oblivion because people came back and there's like 4,000 responses to this person, and they were like I don't know 100 likes.
So one of my triplets, my daughter Alond, goes to Dickinson College in Pennsylvania. She's in pre-law in Pennsylvania, and she was telling me that when she walked around campus on the Friday after the Thursday night game, that people, like everybody, she goes, everywhere I walked around, I could hear people talking about, I can't believe the Eagles lost to the Giants, all this stuff. And then, of course, they were winning, and she was on the phone with one of her friends from back in Pennsylvania, and they were watching the game yesterday with the Bears. And she goes, oh, my God, their family is just going crazy. They can't believe they're losing to the Bears now after they lost to the Cowboys. They lost to the Giants. They're like, this team sucks. And I'm like, oh, my God, I would love to be in a position to go, my team sucks because they've lost 4 games.
Yeah. I think it's funny how fast Eagle fans will boo. They're the defending Super Bowl champions, and the fans will boo at the drop of a hat. So,
well,
anyways, all right, let's wrap this up. Anything else that we missed? You asked me about Dart. Did you have any thoughts on Dart?
Dart, to me, it's a big deal, I think, to see how he comes back. I don't want to see any lingering effects. I definitely don't want him taking any more shots. And the other thing is, if Mike Kafka is truly being auditioned to be the coach, we got to see how those two work together. I don't want it to be the deciding factor, but you can't eliminate it as a factor, because if things go well, if it looks like the offense is really humming with Dart back and Kafka's the coach, it's going to be hard to just say he can't be the coach.
And do you think Bowen has a chance to be different, or is it asking too much?
I don't know how you can. Like, where are you going to get the player? You can change some things to just be, the only things you can really change is we'll be aggressive. We're going to blitz, but the players are still the players. You're already missing a good portion of your linebacking crew. Is Thibodeau going to play or not play?
No, I don't think he's going to play. He's been out all week.
So you're down to 2 edge guys playing the bulk of the game. Dexter might be out. So now you're down interior.
If he's not out, he's definitely not 100%. We know that. He didn't practice.
Correct. So I think the bulk you can do is you just can be aggressive.
Do you make anything out of the fact that before the reporters were kicked out of practice on the first day of practice this week was what? We're a day behind on Thursday. No, because Thursday was Thanksgiving. On Wednesday, do you make anything out of the deal that the reporters were saying we've never seen them do tackling drills this early in practice?
It might be. I would think it's a way of, if you're going to put your stamp on this is different.
Yeah.
You have to handle practice differently, right? You come in and say, we're gonna tackle, because their tackling sucks. They got to be the worst. We are the softest tackling team for a Giants team that I have seen ever. I mean,
do you think it was a red flag that reporters said we haven't seen them run tackling drills before?
But you also go, is that intentional? Is that to go, look, we're different?
Yeah, it could be. And to be fair, I'm going to be fair. Charlie Bullen was asked about this yesterday, and he said we do these drills. We just do them at different times, and you saw them when we were doing them early in individual drill. Yeah. But it was funny when it was tweeted out because 2 reporters said, "Wow, we've never seen them practice tackling before." And my reaction was like, well, that's not surprising any of us because they don't look like they know how to tackle anybody. So,
one other thing real quick about this Giants team that I think has really worked against them these last couple of weeks, while our running game has improved quite a bit, and it has, we are painfully slow in the running back position. Singletary broke one run to the right that I'm like, we're going to get at least 15 yards. And all of a sudden he gets to about 8 yards and they're pushing him out of bounds. I'm like, what the hell? You should have at least been 12, 13 yards down. We're just slow. Yeah. Scadaboo's not blazing fast, but he's quick. Like he's really quick.
Tracy's not slow, but
he's not fast. No, but I'll say he's easy to tackle though.
Bradshaw. So you remember Bradshaw had that big long run against Buffalo in the snow that one year, but remember Tracy had that long run last year against Pittsburgh. Was it Pittsburgh? I think?
Yes, he did. It was against Pittsburgh. So, but he's easy to tackle though. Yeah. If you grab him by the shoulder pad, the dude goes down every time.
The only fast running back on the roster right now is Turbo Miller. He's the only. Yeah.
Can I ask you one?
Oh, we brought up Eric Gray. We have Eric Gray.
No, I know I've mentioned Turbo before. I'm not like Turbo's a great player. He's just different. And when you were short running backs, but I'm curious, and I want to know what anybody else thinks too. Why do we carry certain people on the practice squad if we have zero intention of, even when we need the position, of playing them? Because what's the point of having them on the practice squad?
Some of it is they'll have enough people at certain positions to practice, but in this case, that I don't think that is the issue. Though they have been short at running back ever since Scadaboo got. But it's a good question. Like if you're going to keep Turbo Miller, and there are needs for a returner, you'd think Turbo Miller would be a better option than Eric Gray, and plus he hasn't been hurt, right?
So, right. Well, and think of it this way, right? Why do we carry Amir Marset on the practice squad if you're not going to bring him up when you needed a kick returner? Because basically you could just go get any young guy that you want to try to see if he can develop to be a returner on the practice squad. Instead, you're carrying a veteran on the practice squad for what? At this point in time, release him, let him go sign with somebody. I mean, I know they could pull him off the practice squad, but I mean, just why do you even bother having them if you're never even going to use them?
And I don't know if people remember this, and it obviously didn't pan out, but Mir Smith-Marset was the backup slot receiver for much of training camp.
Yes.
So it's not like, and there were these articles out there. Remember, there were the articles. Well, wow, he's proven to be much more than just a returner. He's having a really good training camp. Again, we all Giant fans, we know what they had a really good training camp.
Right.
Camp means.
Alex Bachman.
When you're rolling out Jalen Hyatt, who doesn't do anything, give Amir Smith-Marset a chance. Just bring him up for a game and see if he does anything. What do you have to lose at this point?
Well, definitely when you're short, short returners, and you're like, well, because by the way, you did not have to bring Eric Gray off from he was on the PUP, wasn't he, before, and he was
on the PUP. Yeah.
So you didn't have to bring him off. You could just left him there for the rest of the year.
Yes.
So don't say, we needed a third back. No, you had a third back on a practice squad. You didn't bother bringing him up, he's got to be way less rusty than Eric Gray.
Oh, sure. Oh, God,
so don't
yes.
give me that. Yeah, so don't give me that bullshit.
So before we wrap this up, you go into this game with Dart. Who are you starting at receiver? You're starting Wan'Dale. You're starting Isaiah Hodgins, and you would start Slayton, right?
Has to, I would think, unless you go 2 tight ends. You go multiple tight ends, and you only go 2 receivers. But either way, your 3 guys are Slayton, Wan'Dale, Hodgins. And that's another guy, by the way. Hodgins and Dart have had absolutely no connection whatsoever.
I was going to bring that up. It's going to be interesting to see if they're in sync. And then the other last thing before we get off from me is they've got a number of free agent decisions to make, mainly revolving around the 2022 draft class. But the 2 tough ones to me are what to do about Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yep.
And the other one, which is not about the 22 class, is what to do about Illuminor. And so I think these last 5 games are really important, in particular for Robinson, in determining how strong an effort do you make, what kind of contract do you offer him. I would be very careful. I know everyone's very psyched, and I'm not. Look, I've defended Robinson before, and I've also said he hasn't been what I hoped he'd be. But I'd be very careful of overrating a couple of games this year. The Dallas game, where Wan'Dale had a really good game against an awful defense. And then last week's game was really good. But again, I got to see more games like that before I'm offering somebody like a big multi-million-dollar contract, because I think you can get those tiny slot receivers. They're a dime a dozen in the NFL draft. Every year now, if you look at the NFL draft, there's a ton of the Wan'Dale Robinson types in the draft. And you can get those guys. You don't have to draft them in the 2nd round or the 3rd round. You can get those guys in the 5th round. So I think they have to be careful with that. I'm not saying don't bring him back, but he's got to do more for me than just what he did last week in the Dallas game. To me, that's me.
Right.
I
agree
about that.
No, I agree. One thing real quick. Flannel, no, he did not. Hodgins was not with the Giants during camp this offseason. Hodgins was with the 49ers and the Steelers. The Giants pulled him in midway through. So Dart and Hodgins have had up until just recently when he was signed, they've had no connection together.
They have not practiced until this week together.
Right.
Yeah.
So, to me, Wan'Dale Robinson is probably the biggest. What do you do?
I put Jermaine in there too. I know a lot of people feel different about Jermaine, but I'll make my case against resigning.
Well,
Jermaine
no. You're right. Yeah. Let me be clear. Jermaine's a proven commodity, 100%.
Yes.
Do we want to keep him as tackle and whatever?
Yeah.
Wan'Dale he's producing, but sometimes you got to be careful. Are we overrating production on a bad team?
Yes.
We're not winning games. There aren't other options right now at wide receiver, so he's getting more, but he is producing. But his production ability is very limited. It scares me sometimes about when you see him amongst defensive backs, man, he's small. But if you can use him right, if you can get Nabers, but you got to get that borderline T. Higgins type guy, somebody a little bit bigger with some speed on the other side, and then Wan'Dale can eat up the middle.
Yeah.
Yes, and then he can eat up the middle. If I'm going to re-sign him, though, I think if I've decided I want to, I get it done during the bye week. If you let him go 3-4 more games against bad teams, the Raiders being one, the Vikings defense has got some injuries and their team is kind of given up a little bit. They're not happy with their quarterback. You start doing stuff like that, and then he gets more stats.
Right.
His numbers go up. If you can get him to agree to something now, I say get it done during the bye week.
Somebody posted on X, and I don't know if it's one of these bogus accounts or it was a real reporter, but somebody said the fact that the Giants' bye is so late this year works against them, that some of these free agents might decide, you know what, I'm so close to free agency, I'm just going to roll the dice. I'm not going to do something over the bye. I don't know if that's true or not. So the late bye actually could, if you believe this person, and I don't remember who it was, I apologize. If you believe the person, they were saying some of the Giants free agents are going to wait until free agency. It's just too close to the end of the year. I don't know if that's right.
You could, but if I'm Wandell, the one thing that crosses my mind is
injury.
Yes, 100%. This is a guy that tore his knee up against the Lions late in 22. So if he were to get hurt over the last 4 games and all of a sudden you go into the offseason, you don't have a contract, who's going to sign you to a big deal coming off an injury? So if the Giants give him a reasonable offer, and the Giants need to backload some of these contracts, like, make sure that you can, get it, make the number big enough to get him to sign, but not so much that it encumbers next year. I say get it done because there's only so many holes you can fill, and he knows the offense, and Dart actually looked to him pretty regularly too. So if there's a trust factor, and I believe at this point there will be, between Dart and Wandell, more so than even with Nabers and Dart really haven't played together. So that is already there. I think you keep them, but it's got to be reasonable. It's got to be a reasonable.
Yeah, and if they don't re-sign him in the bye, these last games are huge to me, because I want to see more than, because again, it's a little bit, if you look at him on a game by game basis, he's disappeared too. Now you can make the arguments because he's the only receiver they have, and so the other teams are concentrating on him. I don't know if that's true or not, but that could be the case. But there have been games where at the end of the game, you're like, wow, Wandell doesn't have any stats. He didn't do, they weren't able to get the ball to him, and he didn't do anything. Giants fans, NFL fans, sports media still make too much out of the last game played. They all do it. They'll say and you'll be like, but what about the 5 games before that? If for some reason that goes out the window. So I want to see Wandell at least have 2 or 3 more strong games. I want to see him get around 80, 90, 100 yards a game for at least 2 or 3 more games before I'm giving. Look, this would be easier if they didn't give Slayton the 3-year, $36 million contract.
It does help me. It does help me a little bit that they're using him down the field and not just 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage. He's made some catches now down the field. That kind of helps you go, okay, I can see him being a bigger part of the offense. Ultimately, his bread and butter is going to be within 7 to 8 yards of the line of scrimmage and make guys miss and take off. And that will help when you have a Nabers, when you have another legitimate wide receiver. But for now, if you can keep proving that, I think that you got something there. I'm really disappointed in the fact that Fedoni went to IR and we never even got to see him. So now we don't know if we have another tight end, because Bellinger's a guy. What are you going to sign him?
What do you do with him? Because I don't want to bring back Manhurts at this point.
I don't think you can. I mean, what does he do?
Yeah. So Bellinger's actually a really interesting one. And the other one, I've seen people say give a multi-year deal to McFadden. Why would you give a multi-year to McFadden? He's coming off a serious injury.
Yeah, no.
I would offer him a minimum contract, and if he leaves,
be it.
There's some, like, the other thing with Wandell and people like Wandell and Mike McFadden and these people, don't overrate these guys. Just because they're better players on the Giants doesn't mean they're better players in the league. So compare Wandell Robinson to other slot receivers in the NFL, and where would you rank him? That's the thing, is let's not pay him top dollar for somebody who might not even start for 15 of the other teams in the league. So that's where I'm coming from. If they can get Wandell at a reasonable deal, I'm bringing him back. But if Wandell wants something ridiculous, I'm like, it would hurt because we don't have a lot at wide receiver. But that's why we're in salary cap hell, because we keep overpaying for these guys that are like the Slayton deal. The Slayton deal is ridiculous. I hate to keep coming back.
Well, that's a bad deal, and it's also how we do the deals. Yeah. Clearly, we don't have a genius running the cap pieces of it. Everybody else seems to be able to manipulate the cap. Even guys are way at the bottom. They make a couple changes and bam, they can now sign players. I'm like, how is that? How come we can't? We're always at the bottom and we suck. That seems like a weird combo. You're supposed to be at the bottom and you have a shitty roster. Not, I have a very expensive roster and I'm at the bottom. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay.
That being said, we'll wrap it up. I gotta put up a shit ton of Christmas decorations now that the holiday's over. That being said, we'll decide. We'll let you know. I think we're kind of leaning in one direction, but we'll let you know. But that being said, like, subscribe. It's been great. It's been fun, even though we haven't been that good. I did get a message on Facebook. at some point, we will have Bobby Johnson come on, so we're going to be able to talk about Bobby.
Bobby Johnson, really?
Bobby Johnson. We'll talk a little bit
You're on
about
the wide receiver, not the old offensive line coach.
No, the wide receiver Bobby Johnson. Which would be nice. I'd like to talk to him about his time with the Giants. Then
isn't Bobby Johnson the one that lost his Super Bowl ring
and got it back? That's correct. Yes.
But he lost. Didn't he have like an accident? He
sold it, I believe,
but
it was reacquired.
Was he involved in an industrial accident or something? He lost some fingers or something too. I thought maybe I'm confusing with another player.
That I don't know. I know there was some personal issues that led to losing some of the stuff. And then Stephen Baker and I have gone back and forth to get Perry Williams. We've messaged back and forth about a bunch of stuff. So start looking towards the off season, but things I want to talk to these guys about, different stuff.
Those of you who are not old enough to remember, he did way more than this too. But Bobby Johnson goes down in Giants history as the recipient of the 4th and 17 catch against Minnesota that helped propel the Giants into their first Super Bowl. So that was a huge play and a huge game. And everybody, Giants fan who grew up during that time period, always remembers 4th and 17. And that was Bobby Johnson.
Then there was that huge 4th down play against the Broncos here this year that had the Giants not blown the game. People would be talking about Dart's play there for the first time. But anyway, that being said, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We'll catch you again possibly this week early, but we'll see. And you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays coming up.